Hey, just when your bug had started to wane, Hugh has a huge day and hires two monsters to add to his off the field recruiting staff. And we're going to talk about it. It's episode 19 of the Top Button podcast. Get buttoned because we're about to have some fun. I'm Charlie Five, and I'm here to boog out and talk about these two huge hires we had today. But before we do that, we want to give a shout out to Ford Stokes at Active Wealth Management. You guys have been tweeting at me, comments in the YouTube videos and things like that, asking more questions about active wealth management. We really appreciate that. But look, everybody has these Acorn accounts and all these different types of trading platforms and things you use, and you don't pay attention to the fees, the outrageous fees that those things charge. Look, reach out to Ford, activewealth.com, and he can show you how different ways to minimize fees in your investing. That's one of the things that he is, that's his thing. Okay. So reach out to him, tell him War Eagle. You can bug out and save and grow together as well. So give a shout out to Ford at Active Wealth Management at activewealth.com, and he'll help you out. All right. So off the field recruiting staffs have become the thing in college football. They're becoming more and more like NFL staffs, honestly, NFL personnel staffs. You got GMs, you got scouting, you got all kinds of stuff. And Auburn in 2010, the whole recruiting operation and on-field coaches was just 15 coaches. Now there's going to be over 25 different off the field staff, just off the field staff, not even counting the coaches. So these hires are becoming more and more critical because with the evolving way that you have to run a program and be a head coach with the transfer portal, recruiting your own roster, analyzing the portal, scouting the portal, and then the high school aspect, you just can't do it with just your on-field staff anymore. You got to have the big off-the-field staff personnel as well. And Hugh went out and hired what may be the biggest hire that he's made, maybe since he's been at Auburn. Okay, I'm a little bit biased. Okay, I'm a little bit biased because I have been in love with this guy since like early 2000. Early 2010s. Like I kind of caught wind of him and the things that he does in the Atlanta area around 2012, 13, 14. He was hired as sort of like a recruiting liaison at Grayson High School from 14 to 2018. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. But Kenyatta Watson, just an absolute Atlanta metro region high school legend, is coming on aboard at Auburn, coming on aboard to Hugh's off the field staff as a director of, I believe it's something like scouting and recruiting research and strategy is what his title will be. So he's going to be in this gigantic recruiting department, and you're going to be adding a guy. If there's one weakness that you could really point to on this Auburn staff, this Auburn recruiting staff, I would say, honestly, it's Atlanta area connections. I mean, you just go top down, look at the whole roster. We have guys that recruit Georgia, but we just didn't have a lot of Georgia guys. And there could be no bigger Georgia guy than adding Kenyatta Watson to this staff. In 2021, he put out a tweet. He had not gotten his first college job yet. And he just said, hey, if anybody, this is when off the field staffs were really starting to be built. And he put out a tweet, hey, all I need is a shot and I'm going to be I'll be a star. And I remember talking about it. I posted it on one of the message boards. I was like, man, if Auburn could ever figure out a way to get this guy. And I think there at that point in time, there were some communications. Remember, this is around the Brian Harsin. This is the Brian Harsin era. I think there were some people that were trying to make it happen, and it just ended up not happening at that point in time. He tweeted, if I just get a shot, and then that was like in February of 2021. And then by July, he got offered a position in the recruiting department at Florida State. So that was where he got his first gig as a on the college level. And then eventually, 1 year later, Georgia Tech comes calling. That's his home. And also, he had a son who Kenyatta Watson the second or junior or the second. I'm not sure what he actually goes by. He actually signed with Texas out of high school, transferred to Georgia Tech. So that's where he's been. He's been home. He's been in the heart of Atlanta for the last 2 years. And I mean, we actually have had some battles with Georgia Tech. One in particular, an offensive lineman that we lost. So there, Georgia Tech's recruiting for Georgia Tech has gotten a lot more competitive. Not necessarily. I'm not saying that's all because of Kenyatta Watson, but you got to give him at least some credit for being a part of that sort of rebuild that Brent Key has done after taking over that that job there at Georgia Tech. So we go out, we bring him in. He's fired up. Will Redmond has already, our GM or player personnel, he's already retweeted it. So it's pretty much official that he's going to be here. He's changed his profile picture on Twitter. He's changed his cover photo to Auburn. And I didn't realize this, but I think I remember it now that I tweeted a lot about him a long time ago before I ever thought he would be an option at Auburn. And I remember, I vaguely remember him following me, and in my head, I thought that might mean that he could be coming to Auburn, but it ended up not happening. So I remembered, hey, I think he follows me. Shot him a DM. I said, I'm fired up. I've been fired up about you since at least 2021. And he said back, I'm on a mission. That was his all caps. I'm on a mission. If that doesn't get you jacked, if that doesn't get your bug up to level 10, I don't know what will. So let's talk about a little bit about why who he is and why he's so, what I feel is important to this off the field recruiting staff. So just take his time at Grayson High School. So from 2014 to 2018, I don't know the exact title, but essentially he was the head of recruiting for Grayson. That may sound, a little bit fishy on the high school level, but it was more so getting his high school players scholarships at the next level. And at Grayson High School, if you remember, like all of a sudden, it was like 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. One class, they had Owen Popo, Wanya Morris. They had Kenyatta Watson, his son, who was a high 4-star. And then there was another, a linebacker that went to Alabama. And it seemed like every single year, it was just 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. In 5 years, he got 120 football players scholarships. I don't know that if all of them were D1. I think it was just scholarships in general. 120. Think about your high school. Okay. Think about your high school that you grew up at. Now, I understand Atlanta's big. Atlanta high schools are probably a lot bigger than some of the schools that, you and I visited. My graduating class was like 83. Okay. So I'm sure there's some schools in Atlanta. Grayson probably graduates close to 1,000 kids, maybe, somewhere in between 800 and 1,000. So that may not seem incredibly, that number may not seem way high to you, but 120 guys, that averages to about almost 25 players per year getting a D1 scholarship or getting a scholarship to play football at the next level. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. That is, and you got to think there's so many people that are so loyal to him for being able to market them to colleges to get them those scholarships. You got to understand. You got to know that there's loyalties all over the state of Georgia, and he was a big part of that. I mean, 25 kids. I mean, when 1/4, essentially 1/4 of your team probably dressed somewhere around 100. If 1/4 of your team is going to play at the next level, that's incredible. That's incredible. And he is a big part of that. Another thing that he did in Atlanta, he was sort of the point man for a lot of these middle school transition to high school Under Armour camp type things where he could kind of, or he would come in and pick out guys that he thought were going to be, great. He would host these camps and sort of put them in the right, put the right people in the right places as far as getting them to the right, making sure they were taken care of and things like that. To make a long story short, there's not a player in Atlanta. There's not a player in Atlanta or surrounding counties that is good, that is any good, that Kenyatta Watson does not know about now, then, and forevermore. Okay. You're talking, I mean, this is your weakness fulfilled like exponentially through this one guy. Like he is equivalent to probably 2 or 3 different hires in Atlanta based off of the connection that he has. It's absolutely incredible. I've been dreaming for this guy to be added to the staff. I'm going to tweet out one of my posts for everybody to see. I mean, like I said, back in 2001, I said, if anybody gives this dude a shot, he is going to absolutely kill it in recruiting, and he has. He killed it at Florida State. He's helped turn around Georgia Tech in almost no time. And the cool thing about it is Georgia Tech's home, man. Georgia Tech is that's his territory. That's downtown Atlanta. I mean, that's every one of those powerhouse high schools are like within, walking distance almost. Not walking distance, but I mean, you understand what I'm saying. Just a short drive from campus to these places. And he leaves that to come to Auburn. I think it's cool. And I'm wondering, because Will Redmond tweeted about it, that means obviously it's official. So that we can talk about it, and it's about as official as it is until, without Auburn University tweeting it out. But for Will to be one of the first ones to put that out there, it makes me wonder how that it makes me think that Will was very involved in this. And that's another thing about Will Redmond, about this GM position that a lot of people don't understand, is they don't just recruit. They don't just work the portal. A lot of them handle coaching hires outside of like your on the field coaches. Like they're the ones that builds out the staff underneath them. They're the ones that handles all but so the coach doesn't have to. So Hugh's not in the middle of it, but I'm sure Hugh had some involvement, and ultimately he's going to get credit for it because he hired Will Redmond. If it was 100% Will Redmond, Hugh hired Will Redmond away from LSU. So regardless, that's also cool to me to see Will Redmond involved, because I don't want to act like I'm a know-it-all. I mean, I know I pretend that I'm a know-it-all, but I don't actually know it all. But to see another guy kind of see some of the similar things that you see that's on our staff, I don't know, it kind of feels cool. It feels cool to have somebody that sort of maybe see some of the things that you see, and then they actually have the ability to go make it happen. So I'm trying to keep it calm right now. Like, y'all don't understand how big of a hire this is for Auburn. You do not understand the impact. Like day one, honestly, just the tweet of him being involved with Auburn without even him having to make calls or anything is absolutely massive. Georgia Tech, those guys, there's not even like the coping type stuff on their message boards. I'm reading some of their message boards now. All of them are like, man, we loved him. We loved Kenyatta. That was a huge loss. Hope that he can be replaced. Stuff like that. You're not getting the copium type stuff from the Georgia Tech side. You're getting the straight up like, man, we really, we missed. We're going to miss that guy. He's going to be tough to replace. So I personally cannot wait for him to get here, get working. I think I just think you're going to see the fruits. There's so many kids up that I-85 corridor now that you got to feel like you have a huge boost in the recruiting with. So again, one of the weaknesses on this staff, I feel like, was probably Georgia connections, and you just solved it. You just solved it and some with Kenyatta Watson. So I'm fired up. I hope you guys are too, because he is going to be a monster. And if you've ever watched any videos about him, or if you ever done any research, he's just energetic, just a fun guy. And I'm so happy for the players that get to be around him as well as the recruiting and all that whole aspect of it too. So big props to pulling that one off. I know that one turned some heads. That one turned some heads and said, "Oh, okay, they're serious. They are absolutely serious." Uh, Auburn is no joke right now. Hugh Freeze is going to make this thing. He is going to absolutely battle on the recruiting trail, and this was a big pro for us, adding Kenyatta Watson. Another hire that was made today. You're listening to this on Thursday. I'm recording this on a Wednesday. Another big hire that has not officially been announced in any capacity. It was sort of a source thing, but I'm starting to see a lot of activity from the school that this guy's coming from. That sort of signifies to me that it's probably pretty legit, and we're just sort of waiting on an official announcement. But when Hugh was at Ole Miss, his director of recruiting, Maurice Harris, was his go-to guy for recruiting. He he was the one. He managed the board, the recruiting boards, the assignments, everything to do it with during the greatest period of recruiting in the history of Ole Miss football, Maurice Harris. And it's words starting to come out that he has been hired in an off the field analyst role at Auburn, which is another absolutely massive hire. And it's a massive hire on multiple levels. Okay. So number one, Hugh wanted to get Maurice in last offseason. The calendar for when a new coach is hired is just insane. It's pedal to the metal. You gotta make stuff happen. You got to make decisions a lot of times without really vetting it all the way out. And for whatever reason, he wanted Maurice Harris, but we couldn't make it happen at that point in time. But he's got him in. He's got him in. Seemingly got him in now. This past offseason, he was the acting offensive coordinator at Jacksonville State. So we're not just bringing in just a hired gun, a mercenary recruiter. This guy's a football coach. He is an incredible recruiter, but this guy is a football coach. Okay. He was the offensive coordinator. So he called plays at Jacksonville State. Their offense was number 4 in the SWAC in scoring. They were number 1 in total offense. And here's the big numbers. Okay. Number 2 in receiving and number 2 in passing. Okay. Why is that important? Because Maurice is more than likely going to be sort of like a number 1 assistant for Marcus Davis at wide receivers. I think that was a big goal in the offseason. Let's bring in a seasoned position coach that can be sort of a guide to Marcus Davis, because Marcus is already a phenomenal recruiter. You just look at his class that he just brought in. And if you compare him with another great recruiter and then a guy who knows how Hugh wants to run his offense, he was Hugh's wide receiver coach at Liberty. And I think maybe like a co-OC or something like that. So a guy that knows how another guy that knows how Hugh wants to run his offense and can recruit like a madman, and you pair him up with Marcus Davis, like holy cow. So you look at some of these moves that are made, and again, I want to kind of summarize this again. I kind of briefly glossed over it, but Hugh was hired on like November 29th of 2022. You had signing day like less than 3 weeks away. Then you had the portal open up. Then you had another signing day. Then you had another portal open up, and everything had to be done so quickly. And there's a lot of guys that Hugh really wanted that probably had to be vetted, had to be sort of vetted through the SEC, vetted through Auburn and things like that. And you just did not have the time. We just didn't have the time to make that happen before, all those, before you had to, we're signing classes and bringing in portal guys for portal visits and stuff like that. And so you've had a whole calendar year and off season and several portal opportunities to see where your deficiencies are on the staff. And it's what it seems like is Hugh has made sure that, okay, I've identified the weaknesses. And I think portal was one of them. And I've hired a true GM, and I've got recruiting gurus everywhere on this off the field staff. I've found my weaknesses, and you could look at both coordinator positions. I've got my offensive side figured out now. I got the triangle of Hugh, Ken Austin, and Derek Nix. And now I got Maurice Harris that can help Marcus Davis. I got my offensive side figured out. I got the defensive side figured out, and I've got my off the field stuff figured out now. And these aren't just these are big boy moves. I mean, Will Redmond was like the 2022 off the field recruiting guy of the year. He's the one that I talked about. I did a whole show about it. Came into LSU with 45 when LSU had 45 scholarship players, put together a roster, and they won the SEC in 1 year. That's, a guy that just this is his whole thing, is this roster management, portal analyzation, portal acquisition, stuff like that. That is what that's his only thing he does. He'll never coach wide receivers. He'll never worry about necessarily drumming up an offense or running an offense or a defense. His thing is, I know what Hugh wants. I know how Hugh wants to execute his offense. I know how he wants to execute his defense. I'm going to go find the guys that can fit those places and put them in front of the coaches to go basically just go get. What a fun job that's got to be. And then you got your bird dogs, Kenyatta Watson, and you got your other dogs, Maurice Harris, backing up your already super strong on the field staff, recruiting staff. I know that I'm a homer, okay? I know that I boog, but this is the most exciting recruiting staff that I honestly can remember at Auburn. And I know it's a different era, and I know it's a different game, but it's really hard to pinpoint a weakness. It really, really is hard to pinpoint a weakness on the staff from a recruiting standpoint. I think you're about to enter an era of recruiting that Auburn's not seen maybe ever, but definitely it's been a long, long time since you're going to see probably more results that I feel like you'll see that we've seen in a long time. So again, man, what a time it is. I was blown away. I kind of expected the Maurice Harris hire. The Kenyatta Watson has come out of nowhere. That kind of came out of nowhere. I had no clue whatsoever. And when he sent me that DM that said, I'm on a mission, he put out another cryptic tweet this morning, going back and looking at it, that said something like, hey, if you're going to take a shot, you better not miss. And I'm wondering, I really want to know what's the story behind that. Was there some other teams that were trying to get him away and weren't as serious at Auburn? Or is there some teams that, maybe told him, oh, maybe next year, or just didn't give him, maybe not taking him as serious? I don't know. I don't know what it means, but all I know is he put that out. Hey, he says today I've seen him say, if you're going to take a shot, you better hit. And I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission, and he's coming to Auburn. He already changed all his stuff to Auburn. So we're going to have some fun. It's going to be some fun recruiting times over the next several months, and hopefully even longer than that. Kenyatta's a guy too that you could bring in and teach and him move up and become, like a second in command behind a Will Redmond, and maybe eventually, take over. So Uh, and then Maurice Harris is another guy who is right there. And if you have an issue with a coach, or Marcus Davis gets a promotion somewhere as an offensive coordinator, you could slide him right in there at wide receiver coach and not miss a beat, and then go find somebody to fill his shoes, off the field. I love Trevon Reed. Okay, so this doesn't mean anything negative towards him. Okay, he took a huge promotion that left a huge hole in the off the field staff, and you just filled it with Maurice Harris and Kenyatta Watson. Unbelievable, unbelievable job by Hugh. So definitely crank up the boog over that. So before we talk about basketball, I want to give a shout out to plainscoffee.com. Use coupon code BUTTON for 10% off. Stop shopping at big box stores. Stop storing it away in your pantry. This stuff that sits there for months, and it's just, it just is what it is when you put it in. It's not like I drink coffee because that's a habit. Drink coffee because you love it and because it tastes good, and that's what you're going to get at plainscoffee.com. They got blends for everybody. They got dark blends, light blends, medium roast, everything. And then if you don't like those, they got teas too. So if you want some hot tea, I like cold sweet tea, but if you like hot tea, they got hot tea too. Use coupon code BUTTON, take 10% off. All right, basketball season. Admittedly, it's Valentine's Day. I'm recording this a little bit before the Auburn, South Carolina game is going to end. So this isn't going to be a recap about the game. Auburn's up 10, up 9 points, about 11 minutes left in the first half. They're looking pretty good, shooting pretty good, playing good defense. It's not necessarily about tonight's game, but more about some bracketology talk and what maybe the outlook for the rest of the season is, and postseason and stuff like that. So if you follow along with Joe Lunardi, bracketology on ESPN, Auburn has been constantly hovering around a 3 and 4 seed in the tournament, and a lot of that's based off of how they project the season to finish. They're looking at Auburn's schedule and the ESPN predictor, predicting analytics and things like that, and then they're just kind of trying to project how they feel like the season will end. And right now, the most current bracket that was released on the 13th has us as a 3 seed, and I think he does a little bit more live stuff, but the most current one that I see has us at a 3 seed, which I think would be absolutely incredible. I love the 3 seed. I think that's it's not too easy and it's not too tough at the same time. So I like being a 3 seed. It looks like if over the next, I guess we have 7 games left, I believe. Like I said, we got the South Carolina game, then we play Kentucky. Then we actually have a bye week. We have an off midweek. And then we go and we play Georgia away. Let's see, we have exactly, 1, 2, 3, 6 games left. Okay. So counting this one. So 7 games, counting the one that's playing right now where Auburn's up 11. If it seems like they're sort of projecting that we may lose 2 out of those next 6, which I don't think is necessarily too unfair. That'd be 13 and 5 in the conference, probably puts you somewhere in 3rd or 4th in the conference, which is not terrible. It's the top half of this conference. The top 5 teams in this conference are all really, really good basketball teams. It gives you a 1 seed in the SEC tournament. I'm sorry, not a 1 seed. It gives you a 2-day bye. Like you're a bye all the way to the end. It'll probably be the 3rd or 4th seed overall. But that again, the way this season's played out, we could lose 2 games, or we could lose 1, or maybe lose none. I think this team has the ability, and at times can beat anybody. But I think if you're looking at the way the experts and things like that are kind of projecting us, it looks like we might, if we can pull this one out tonight and hang on. It looks like that That Georgia game could be testy, but you do get a whole week off to prepare for that one, which that you saw what happened with Florida, having a whole week off to prepare for Auburn, what that can do. So having a whole week off to prepare for Georgia on the road, I think that's really big. Also give us a chance to rest. I know it stinks that we don't get a midweek game next week, but man, how valuable is that going to be for these guys to sort of recharge themselves over the week? It'd be huge going into Georgia. And then you got to play at Tennessee. Luckily, that's a midweek game. I think still it's going to be, a rowdy crowd, but maybe less than if it were like a Saturday primetime, where everybody could be off work, out of class, and everything. Maybe you're out of town folks can't. So it's a little bit more local crowd. You never know. They're going to be tough. I still feel like they're probably the best, or if not the second best team in the conference. So you got those two games, and then your March is very manageable. You got Mississippi State at home, which I just don't feel like I don't feel like you're going to see. Auburn's just such a different team on the road, and we played a really terrible game there. I just don't feel like you lose that game. You play Missouri, who I don't think is still has not won in conference. Then you play Georgia at home, which at home you should beat their eyes out 9 times out of 10. So if you can get by these next two games, Kentucky game day at home, and then you take your week off and you knock off Georgia, you got a real good shot at 14-4 at worst, which could give you at least maybe a share of a regular season title, which would be incredible, because I feel like people take those for granted. I feel like people don't really look so hard at regular season titles, because and Broom just hit a 3. He's shooting incredible from from 3 in conference. But I feel like people don't take regular season titles seriously enough. The banners are a big deal. And if you can win these next two, take your week off, knock off Georgia, that puts you in a really good spot to hang another banner. And then who knows what happens in the postseason. I really like this team as a tournament team. You don't necessarily have that go-to shooter, but you're very efficient in offense. You're very efficient per possession per offensive possession on offense, whether it's from 3, from 2, however, you're just in a very efficient offense, and you're an incredibly efficient defense. And typically when you have when you're extremely highly ranked on both sides of the ball, you are built to make a run in the tournament. So that's why I love the 3 seed. It kind of gives you should be a layup first game, and then a second game where, the second game is you have a 6 seed and a 6-12, I believe. And 6-12. And there's always seemingly, or maybe it's 6-11. There's always seemingly those upsets. There's always seemingly one of those upsets. So you could get an 11 seed. But if not, your consolation prize is a 6 seed. And that would just be, obviously fantastic if we could hang on and come in at one of those 3 seeds. 4 seed wouldn't be terrible. If you lose 2 or 3 games, 2 or 3 more games, you're probably looking at a 4 seed. I think the goal would be the best you could probably be is a 2 seed. But I think 3 seed is probably our sweet spot, which I'd be absolutely ecstatic. So let's hang in there and hold on to this victory. And hopefully we're celebrating in the morning over this one. It looks like we're up 13 right now with about 8 minutes left. I was kind of shocked that this game was a 12-point spread. That seemed, South Carolina's only, I think, lost 2 conference games, so 2 or 3 conference games. So they're solid. They're a solid team, ranked really high. I mean, this is probably the biggest ranked matchup of the night, maybe of the week. And we're a 12-point favorite at home. Neville's just a black hole for visiting teams. You come in to take a beating in Neville Arena. So huge football hires. Start looking at this organizational chart. Look on this football staff. Learn these titles, man, because this is the future of football. This is the future of college football. Roster management, off the field staffs. So those are going to start being just as big of names that you need to get to know as it is you're on the field coaching, on the field coaching guys. And we hired two of the biggest. Maurice Harris, offensive coordinator from Jackson State, is now coming to be a successful offensive coordinator, coming to be an analyst at Auburn and a recruiting guru. And then you hire Mr. ATL. Mr. ATL. More people know Kenyatta Watson than Ludacris. I'm telling you, in Atlanta, he's that much big of he's that big of a deal. So get fired up, get the book going. Let's have a great weekend. Let's beat Kentucky. Show up for game day. Get crunk, and then let's talk about it next week and have a blast. So, guys, thanks again for listening. It's episode 19 of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.